Hampton Roads has a long-running high school and college sports tradition. It's time to give them the spotlight they deserve. This is 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Here is Matt Hatfield.
And we welcome you back to 757 Sports Talk, powered by CoVA Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe as you hear the fight song of the Dukes of JMU. We are so privileged to be joined by the longtime Director of Broadcast Services Emeritus, 38 seasons, I think it is, and counting for James Madison University, all sports coverage, their voice, and a Valley League Hall of Famer. We say hello to our pal, Curt Dudley. Curt, good to have you on the program. How's life treating you here? It's October. We're getting closer and closer to all the holidays like Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And for folks in the Commonwealth, this is a big one. JMU hosting Old Dominion coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, it's a great, mid-October situation coming up here. As you mentioned, Shenandoah Valley. I'm a 757 original from Norfolk, but here in the Valley, talk about the holidays. I just keep seeing pumpkins drive by my house. They're not on wheels, but they're on tractors, of course. So they're getting ready certainly for what is a festive time of year here in the Valley and, of course, across the country as well.
No question. And both of these teams are playing rather well. They've got a pretty neat series here as of late. JMU has won a couple of squeakers 2 years ago in Harrisonburg as a 20.5-point favorite by a count of 30-27. Last year, the Dukes made the trek to Norfolk, 135-32. We know about the blowout 37-3 in 2022, so they're unbeaten against the Monarchs since they joined FBS play. But this is an improved Old Dominion team, despite its recent blemish by a wide margin at Marshall. Beat Virginia Tech on the road, played Indiana relatively close, which I want to get your thoughts at the end here about what Curt Cignetti's doing with the Hoosiers. But JMU, solid as usual. So this game has a lot of intrigue and, oh, by the way, ramifications when it comes to the Sun Belt standings and the possibility of one of those teams playing for a championship.
Yeah, right now, JMU, the only undefeated team in the East as far as conference play is concerned at 3-0. And you do have a couple of teams that just do have the one loss. So certainly we're getting towards that midpoint as far as the schedule. The Dukes do have a non-conference game in November, so that will level things off a little bit in terms of the 8 conference games. But yeah, this is a big one. I'm a little disappointed actually that, and I'm sure Old Dominion fans and the players and coaches and everybody there associated with the Monarchs are disappointed with the outcome up at Marshall. From what I understand, it was an uncharacteristic showing for this 2025 team and some mistakes that were very costly. I was keeping an eye as JMU played the noon game this past Saturday. I was keeping an eye on the score while we were in our post-game press conferences and knew the Monarchs were trailing 14-7. And then suddenly, by the time I walked from our post-game press conference up back to the press box, it was 24. The Marshall had put up 24 quickly before halftime. So I knew something had happened that was a little out of the ordinary. But, you throw all that stuff aside. It is Old Dominion. It is James Madison. Not a long football rivalry, but as Old Dominion reinstituted its football program, it became, and it is one that a lot of people will circle around, and for JMU, as far as the Commonwealth is concerned, Old Dominion and Liberty, even though you got Virginia Tech and Virginia, JMU plays Old Dominion and Liberty now on a very regular basis. So it's that, that little triangle. And of course, the Monarchs also have a victory over the Flames this year, as does JMU.
Yeah, I got a chance to pinch hit for the voice of the Monarchs, Ted Alexander, on the radio side of things when the Monarchs played Liberty in the monsoon that we had that day. Won that game 21-7. Sloppy game, but Colton Joseph was mighty impressive and was even better the next week in their romp of Coastal Carolina. They did have some miscues. Turnovers in particular really cost them at Marshall, which, as you know, all levels of football, pro, college, high school, will get you beat. Certainly the eyes are on the quarterbacks, Curt, and we can talk about those guys, rightfully so, and Colton Joseph and Alonzo Barnett for James Madison, both of whom have great quarterback numbers. But I want to hit first on the Duke's defense because they are top 13 in America in 4 of the major categories when you talk about points surrendered, total yards yielded, stopping the run, defending the pass. And they've got some neat players on this team. I know the portal's hurt a lot of programs, but they've gotten players. They got one from Notre Dame and Aiden Gabira from Chantilly High School in Northern Virginia, Jacob Thomas, who was a multi-state champion winner in football and basketball from Stonebridge. They're doing it with a lot of blue-collar players, and that's going to probably be where they win the football game if they do, right? Stopping Old Dominion's high-powered offense if they can do it.
Yeah, what JMU has been able to accomplish this year, this being the midpoint, so the sample size is really good. If you go and you look at the game by game breakdown, the Dukes have taken away the strengths of nearly every team. The one exception is their one loss, and that was Louisville. But even that, they did slow the Cardinals down quite a bit and had a chance without some mistakes themselves of being in that game. They were in that game kind of late, but Louisville got a couple of big plays and ended up winning that ball game 28-14. But they have done a really nice job, complimentary job, where the secondary has complemented the front and vice versa. And those linebackers are doing a really good job. Trent Hendrick is the one who is in there that's kind of coordinating all of that as a senior linebacker and leading the charge there. And again, in Weathersby, who had been a backup for the last several years, he's in there and he's playing, a very high level linebacker spot for the Dukes as well. So it has been very complimentary football. And you're as Coach Chesney said in our post-game press conference here on Saturday in Harrisonburg, they like to make the right-handed teams play left-handed. They want to make them uncomfortable, and they have been able to do that and forcing their hand. Now, they do have a little bit of a risk-reward situation, too. If you look at this past Saturday's game, the 24-14 win against Louisiana, they did give up some big plays. They gave up some big plays against Georgia Southern, gave up some big plays against Louisville. So they are susceptible to that because of their risk reward. So they will put a lot of pressure in, get a lot of hurries, and sometimes they will get beat when they've got guys out there on the island. That's the sport, but they're willing to at least show and go that direction. And so far it's been successful. You mentioned some of those players, many of them have stepped up. There is not, Gobira has come in. It's taken him a little while after, really being medically disqualified at Notre Dame. Coming in, he got a couple of sacks at Liberty a few weeks ago, but he has not been the big standout every game. That seems to be changing and trading off, particularly from the defensive line standpoint. But your linebackers, your corners are playing really well. The safeties, Jacob Thomas, playing very well. So it is definitely a collective situation, Matt, when it comes to this defense.
Yeah, and these two programs have multi-pronged running backs or running parts to their games, both being 15th or better in the country in the rushing department. JMU at 15th nationally, Old Dominion at 10th, and the Monarchs 12th in total yards. Colton Joseph is such a weapon here. That's going to be a big thing for the Monarchs. Their receiving core has been improved. Their offensive line has been better than a year ago, where they gave up a lot of sacks, but there were some questions about the receiving core coming in, Curt, about who would step up. They've seen different guys from Ja'Cory Thomas to Naeem Abdul-Rahim Gladding to Trey Brown, among others, for Colton Joseph. If the Monarchs can get big chunk plays, be it through the air or on the ground, they have to feel like they have a chance for the first time ever at the FBS level to knock off the Dukes on the road and get that signature in-state win besides the one they got against the Hokies.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's going to take some balance, I think. And, if you get some of those chunk plays and they come with consistency and you've got a lot of targets there, then certainly that does soften things up there in the middle. And maybe the running game does become a bigger factor in that. But that will be the chess match, I think, that we'll see on Saturday at Bridgeport Stadium is, can Old Dominion find some balance, just like Louisville did a few weeks ago to beat the Dukes. And we'll see how that actually plays out. I'm sure that the coaching staff for the Monarchs will have a game plan that they feel like they can utilize and soften some things up and, maybe hit with a couple of surprises here or there, catch the Dukes napping here or there and come up with a big play. And then just basically turn things around and stop the JMU offense, which is would be the other side of the equation. Obviously, this weekend goes without saying.
Sure, and that's going to be a big deal. Before we let you run a couple more with Curt Dudley, the longtime voice of JMU sports, everything sports here as we get ready for the 3:30 Saturday kick on ESPNU with JMU at 5-1 hosting the 4-2 Monarchs of Old Dominion. And certainly there's a lot of 757 flavor on the roster. We touched on a couple of guys, George Pettaway, another guy from Nansmith Suffolk Academy who made his way to Harrisonburg from North Carolina. But Curt, you've been on the mic for so many different sports, not just football, but all across the years of JMU, ODU, going back to the CAA rivalry days. What makes it so unique and special for fans, whether they're wearing the purple or they're wearing the Monarch silver and blue? What makes it so special?
Well, I think the one thing is that Old Dominion is right there in a hotbed of athletes. You cover the high school athletes there. You know where they are probably as good as anybody about their careers as scholastic athletes, and then where they go from there. And we know I grew up there in that area. Famous Amos Lawrence was one of the first guys that I got to know going to high school with him, and Bruce Smith, at Booker T as well. So it's been a long situation where there's been great talent coming out of that area, and then you've got Old Dominion right there in that area as well. And being such a big metropolitan and megapolis, I'll call it, with all those cities in that one region, many of those are going to come and they're going to disperse and come to other schools. And James Madison has been very popular. I remember the first time that I heard Madison College. I was in my homeroom at Booker T back in, I guess, 78, and I had somebody saying, "Hey, I'm looking at Madison College." I said, "Well, where is that?" And lo and behold, that I know that I had driven by it in the 5th grade going on a field trip to Luray Caverns. So, but that's just it. I think that there's just a lot of folks that know that area and know this area, and either whether they've come here to go to school as a student or come here to be a student athlete, which JMU has had plenty of those. Every time I look at a roster and I see a player from the Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Hampton Roads area, I know they're going to be a good athlete because the numbers bear it out there. And no matter whether it's with JMU or with other sports, so it's really cool to do that. And I think that just transcends the whole rivalry between JMU and Old Dominion.
No question. Well, it's funny. Last time I got to see you in person, I was up there on the NFHS network calling the Class 5 and Class 6 VHSL State Football Championships. And we watched a guy by the name of LeBron Bond, out of Maury High School, catch a long bomb as Maury romped against Briar Woods. And, oh, by the way, he's caught a few passes already this year for the top 10 ranked Indiana Hoosiers, coached by former JMU big whistle Curt Dudley. He's got some more Commonwealth players like Elijah Surratt from Colonial Forge and Kaylon Black, another former JMU Duke out of Salem High and Virginia Beach. I'm sure you're not surprised at what Signetti's doing, having gotten to know him over the years and watched him up close and personal. It's pretty impressive, isn't it?
It is impressive, and you could have maybe had some doubt or kind of shaking your head. What is he doing going to Indiana? But he has proven. He's proven wherever he has been. Now, you may not necessarily like much about his personality and the way that he goes about doing things, but he does have results. And whether he was at the small college level or, working his way through, he kind of worked his way through the ranks a little quicker. Just because he, was there at Alabama, then he realized, okay, for me look at the master plan that he had, going back to Indiana, Pennsylvania, and then stepping over to Elon, then coming to James Madison, then going to Indiana and beating Oregon this past Saturday on the road. That was really an impressive win. And, he elevates players, he elevates the program, and he really does have it going. And what's interesting this week is both James Madison and Indiana are yielding a mere 229 yards of total offense to their opponents. They are tied for 4th in the country in total defense this week. Wow. So that tells you a little bit something about the programs too, that they just happen to coincide with those numbers.
It is remarkable. And I always say this, you'll back me up here, Curt. And I had some trouble on New Year's Eve a couple years back getting on the air, and your entire athletic department made sure I got on the air before our women's basketball pregame show. They go above and beyond, and it is the I should not just say the roster turnover, but the coaching turnover from the years of Mickey Matthews, who won a championship, and Mike Houston. And then you see what Curt Signetti and now Coach Chesney are doing, that they just continue to win no matter who's on the sideline. I think it speaks to what their dedication is to athletics. And it should be fun to see Coach Chesney's Dukes and Ricky Ronnie's Monarchs go head-to-head for this matchup on a Saturday in October with a lot on the line. He is the longtime Director of Broadcast Services Emeritus for JMU, 38 seasons and counting. He's marching towards 40-plus, folks. Curt Dudley, our guest here, friend here, who's got some 757 roots. Always a pleasure, my friend. You enjoy the football game, and I'm sure we'll be chatting come hardwood time basketball season. We'll get Coach Young on here to talk to you about some basketballs. He's back on the sidelines with the Smithfield Packers. But you enjoy the game, and we'll talk again down the road.
All right, thanks. Always great to be with you, Matt.
You bet. Curt Dudley, our guest here, the longtime voice of everything sports when it comes to James Madison University. It is 757 Sports Talk. Like, share, and subscribe to CoVA Sports TV. And we'll be back with more in just a bit. Stay tuned.